Alright guys, so I'm getting lots of requests to break down the Underworld team, T4s and Iso8. So we're going to do that in this video, but we're also going to talk about something a lot more interesting, the importance of positioning. It really is kind of make or break for this team, and it's not, you don't really see the importance of it when you just look at the kits. It's something built into the game. And to lead us through that conversation, Destromonger, a friend of the channel and a very, very smart Marvel Strike Force player, he's actually made a video for us. We're going to watch that together, and then I'm going to make a brief summarization at the end. But without further ado, let's get into it. And we will, of course, start with talking about the kits, starting with T4s Iso8s of Nobu. So Nobu is kind of the least interesting character of the reworks. As far as T4s go, really just the ultimate to get those extra counters, and I like him as a striker. Nothing else really makes sense on him. Getting that extra hand minion from the special might prove useful down the road with the Mr. Negative coming in, and when you're using this against Darkhold, we're going to have to see how the minions are falling out. But right now, without Mr. Negative, his minions are already too much. By the time he's bringing them in, there's not enough room on the field as is, and that's without Mr. Negative summons. So I'm not really a fan of that. And we like him as a striker, because no Iso choice really does much more. I think I already said that, but I'm going to say it again. Then we got Kingpin. Very interesting rework. We want everything but his basic done. His basics just damage. But the special, giving you the safeguard, is huge. The ultimate, giving you offense up to all characters. Again, that's huge. And then the passive is giving you focus. This team is used to take on Darkhold, so I really like that focus. Now, he's one of the rare characters who I actually like best as a fortifier, because he needs that barrier to activate his passive, which is going to give speed up and offense up to summons. Not to all Underworld characters, just to summons. Now, this is pretty impactful right now, but it's going to become even more important when we have Mr. Negative join us, because his summons are so much more powerful than Kingpin's and Nobu's, and them going faster is calling more Taskmaster hits in faster. Taskmaster is a big part of the damage for this team, so giving those minions faster hits, I think, is going to be very crucial, and for that reason, I'm using him as a fortifier. Next, we have Taskmaster. Taskmaster is the damage of this team. So, essentially, you really only need the ultimate and the passive. But the special and the basic of Taskmaster, especially that basic, are very valuable. They just do a lot of damage. Unfortunately, I do think he's best as a skirmisher, just so you're always getting those triple taps. You could get a little creative with it, get skirmishers on different characters, maybe put Raider or Striker on Taskmaster, but I don't think I want to roll that dice on RNG as far as, crits go from Raider. Just use him as a skirmisher, I think, is the best way to go, even though he's getting focused on all his attacks. So, there you go, there's Taskmaster, very important character. And now we'll look at who I think, well, it's hard to tell without Mr. Negative in the game, but right now, Greem Goblin is a very impactful second lead for this team. He's the second biggest damage. Really, the only essential one, I think, is the special. It's just damage, but it's a buttload of damage, and this is really the kill blow for characters who are on stealth. Darkhold and Agatha puts people under stealth. This is very important. So, that special, super important to have the T4 on it. Now, the basic, the ultimate, they're a lot of damage. He does do a lot of damage. So if you really want to go all out on this team, those C4s will help you immensely when you're doing punch-ups or even just, taking on these very, very strong Darkhold teams. And then the passive, it does give you armor. It seems nice, but it doesn't seem super important. So there's value there, but not enough for me to say it's an essential T4. I really like him as a striker because you need him to get those kills. And then finally, we have Mr. Negative. Unfortunately, all his T4s are great. You're going to want to do everything. The extra summon damage on his Iso attack is going to be huge. He's just going to do so much damage. It's incredible. His other abilities, we went over them in a different video, so make sure you check that out if you're curious, or just go on MSFGG and look it up. But you're going to need them all. And for him, very important that you're going to want him as a striker as well, because he's going to do so much damage. From the video we saw, I think it's going to be very important. So there you go, guys. That is our Underworld team. Now, let's go join Destromonger. He's going to walk us through what he found with the position of this team and how important that is. And I'll pop back up when he's done to give a brief summation.
This is going to be a video for something that I had brought up to Dorky, and we went over in his last stream, and then we kind of fine-tuned, trial and errored some of the details, and I believe that I've got the details down. It can get a little finicky, and I'll try to specifically go into the details on that. But the goal here is to optimize your Underworld team so that you're getting the most turn meter possible. And the way that we achieve this is Taskmaster will generate turn meter on his on spawn for all of his Merc and Underworld allies. Now we can kind of manipulate this a little bit because of the order in which character passives are resolved. And so since Kingpin will summon a Merc bodyguard on his spawn, if we can get that to resolve before Taskmaster's passive resolves, we can get some additional turn meter there. And we'll have the same thing happen for when we finally get Mr. Negative into game, because he will summon his inner demons, a inner demon of his on spawn, which can potentially generate some more turn meter there as compared to if you've got them in the suboptimal placement. So I'll try to give you the long story short on this, and then I'll get into the details later. If you want to maximize that turn meter, you want to have Taskmaster on this far left spot on this character screen. As you're looking at it now, the character passives will resolve Nobu first. He's in that number 1 spot in the middle. Greem Goblin 2, in that spot just to the right of Nobu. Merc Lieutenant number 3 in that spot just to the left of Nobu in the middle. Kingpin will resolve 4th in that far right spot, and then Taskmaster will resolve 5th in that far left spot. So to make sure that Kingpin and eventually Mr. Negative's passives will resolve before Taskmaster, you want to get him in that far left spot. And again, I'll go into the details later, but save this in your save squad and always apply it from there. If you watch the end of the video, I'll show you some particulars where it can get finicky if you're manually placing these and you maybe pull a character out and then put them back in. It can actually mess this up. So if you're always placing it once you get it saved from your save squad, you won't have to worry about that. So as we load in here, we should get Kingpin's passive to resolve first, have that bodyguard drop in, and then Taskmaster's passive will resolve and we'll gain 600 turn meter as opposed to the 500 that the enemy team will get with the same characters. We see the bodyguard drops in, then Taskmaster's passive resolves on our side, giving us 600, and you saw the enemy team only got 500 again, even though they're using those same characters. Okay, so like I said, if we put Taskmaster in the 4 slot and Kingpin in the 5 slot and load in, we're going to get Taskmaster's passive resolving before Kingpin's, which will yield only 500 turn meter and will then be a coin flip versus the enemy, since they too are suboptimally placed. So 500 turn meter, then the bodyguard drops. Enemy team, same thing. And we actually won the coin flip. So not too bad. In this case, we probably can still pull out the win. But if we lose that coin flip, then it's pretty rough.
All right, guys, just to kind of sum up what Destromonger was talking about there, this little visual interpretation should help you out. So the passes will trigger numerically from the lowest number to the highest number. So the safest thing to do is to have Taskmaster in the far left spot, that is spot 5. That will activate last. So I have number 1 empty right now. I'll probably throw Mr. Negative in there. Kingpin number 2. So if those two are in those 2 spots, you can't go wrong. There's no adjacent effects on this team, so you don't need to worry about that. You're just kind of worried about who you want to protect. Maybe I'll slide Greem Goblin over to 4. That's not going to make much of a difference. But if you do recall, there is sometimes a little bit of issues when you are placing your units for the first time. So let's head back over to Destromonger and see what he found there.
Show you this. So I have found that the order in which you specifically place these. So like the way that you hit these into their spot, regardless that Taskmaster is one. Again, to make it clear, let me show it to you this way. If you've got characters already placed and then you start pulling some out and placing more in, it will go based on the last one that you place. So if I pull Kingpin and Taskmaster out and place, let's see, if I pull Kingpin out and then place him back in as the last one that was placed, even though Taskmaster is in slot 5 and Kingpin is in slot 4, this will yield a 500 turn meter run. So, I'll show you how that looks, and then I'll show you another scenario with other placements so you see that it's not just this one specific scenario. This will yield us 500 turn meter and be suboptimal. 500 turn meter, then the bodyguard drops. Because we physically placed Kingpin last, even though... and actually, you can kind of even see this more. This is not the placement... I should have paused it, but even though we had Kingpin in slot 4, he was on that far side. So there's all kinds of things that get messed up when you are manually placing these. Like I said, when you're pulling them in and placing them back manually.
All right, guys, and just to sum that up, make sure that you have your save squads done ahead of time to avoid that. Don't start a war match, go down to Underworld, and do it from there. That's going to cause issues. It always does. Do it ahead of time. Being prepared has always been of benefit in this game. So, just to encapsulate everything we learned here today, we talked about T4s, Iso8 earlier, and it's very important the positioning on this team, especially when we have Mr. Negative in the game. That's going to be 2 extra summons. We need to make sure they're spawning in before Taskmaster's passive does his check. So follow the number scheme here, have your save squads ready to go, and you'll be good to make sure you're getting that 800 speed bar bonus as opposed to a measly 600. I got to give a special thanks to 3 individuals for making this video as informative as possible. We got Destromonger, Last Starfighter 1984, and Steven 43084. So, at first, when Destromonger was doing his testing, finding a way to make sure you have the most speed bar, he had thought it was a left to right check. Like, that's what we were told for the Viv Vision Hulkbuster check, right? But then when I did my own testing, I had pictures of it not being the case. And we were scratching our heads going, what's going on? Because he had consistent results. I had consistent results with my positioning. And then Steven and Last Starfighter came in and was like, maybe it's not a left to right check. Maybe it's a positioning check. And that's where we got that information from, which is super important, especially now that we're going to have 2 on-spawn summons when Mr. Negative hits. But it didn't stop there. So Destro went back to the drawing board. He did about 2 hours of testing, and then he found that positioning issue when you're doing it on the fly. So make sure you have your saved squads done ahead of time, especially in a war when you're doing a race. You don't want to be doing it like that because you could screw up your passives. And so he helped us make sure that, you know, we know the importance of staying prepared. So big shout out to those 3 guys. Thank you so much for making sure we're getting the best information out to the community. Alright guys, well that's going to be it for this video. If you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, and have fun. I know the War Scourge is starting tonight, right now when this video is posted. So wish you all luck, and just know I am hard at work getting videos on the tray, trying to get them to you as fast as possible. You know I love Scourge. But yeah, take care guys, and I will talk to you soon.